June 28, 1914. From this moment, the world is exactly 37 days away from a global conflict that would claim 17 million lives. The crisis began with Archduke Franz Ferdinand, the heir to the Austro-Hungarian throne. During a visit to Sarajevo, his driver made a navigational error, taking a wrong turn that placed the Archduke's car directly in front of an assassin. That assassin was a 19-year-old named Gavrilo Princip. He stepped from the curb and fired his handgun at close range, killing both the Archduke and his wife, Sophie. Princip was a member of Young Bosnia, a revolutionary movement of South Slav nationalists. He stated that his goal was to free the Slavic people from Austrian rule through acts of terror. For the multi-ethnic Austro-Hungarian Empire, this was an existential challenge. Leaders in Vienna believed that failing to avenge the Archduke would destroy the empire's prestige and lead to its total dissolution. In 1914, Europe was a map of dense imperial rivalries. Decades of colonial competition and aggressive nationalism had turned the continent into a powder keg. To protect their interests, these powers formed a web of alliances. One side was the Triple Entente, grouping the Russian Empire, France, and Great Britain. Opposing them was the Triple Alliance, consisting of the German Empire, Austria-Hungary, and Italy. This alliance system was dangerously rigid. The treaties ensured that any localized conflict between two nations would automatically pull the world's major powers into a general war. By July 5th, Austria-Hungary was ready to crush Serbia, but they were wary of Russia. They knew that if they attacked, the Tsar might mobilize to defend his Slavic allies. Vienna turned to its ally in Berlin. They asked Kaiser Wilhelm II if Germany would provide military backing against Russia if the situation escalated. Germany responded with what is now known as the blank check, an unconditional offer of support for whatever action Austria-Hungary chose to take against Serbia. German leaders assumed Russia was militarily unready for a wider war and believed the Tsar would not risk his throne to defend a nation linked to a royal assassination. The blank check was the critical enabler of the war. It shifted Austria-Hungary's strategy from cautious diplomacy to reckless military aggression. On July 23rd, Austria-Hungary delivered a deliberately impossible ultimatum to the Serbian government, giving them only 48 hours to respond. The most extreme demand required Serbia to allow Austrian imperial security forces into Serbian territory to conduct their own investigation, a direct violation of Serbian sovereignty. 2 days later, Serbia accepted almost all terms, including points regarding weapon smuggling and punishing frontier officers. However, they drew the line at surrendering their national independence. Austria-Hungary rejected the compromise, severed diplomatic relations, and formally prepared for an invasion. Russia immediately began mobilizing its massive, slow-moving army to support Serbia. In Berlin, German military planners watched the Russian troop movements with growing panic. Once the mobilization orders were signed, diplomacy died. Control of the crisis passed from civilian leaders to military generals bound by rigid, high-speed timetables. Germany's response was the Schlieffen Plan. It was a strategic solution to the geographic reality of a two-front war against Russia in the east and France in the west. Planners saw Germany trapped between two massive powers, needing to knock one out quickly. The plan required rapidly enveloping and annihilating the French army before slow-moving Russian forces arrived. To achieve this speed, the maneuver bypassed French fortresses, marching through neutral Belgium toward the English Channel. The Schlieffen Plan shows how tactical convenience blinded the German general staff. They prioritized the speed of their march over the strategic disaster of violating a neutral nation. In early August, Germany executed the plan and invaded Belgium. This forced Great Britain, which had attempted to mediate peace, to declare war to defend Belgian neutrality. Every alliance domino had fallen. The illusion of a short war promised by generals vanished as the conflict ground into a stalemate of trench warfare. The final cost of this industrial slaughter was 17 million dead and 25 million wounded. Debates like the Fisher controversy continue to argue over which nation bears the ultimate blame for lighting the fuse, but the evidence of the July crisis shows a series of calculated risks that went wrong. World War I was a man-made catastrophe born of arrogant assumptions and rigid alliances. It demonstrated the deadly and tragic illusion to leaders that the machinery of modern war can be easily controlled once the gears of mobilization begin to turn.